What's going on, guys? So a lot of people were a little upset at my rogue tier list, so I wanted to go ahead and do an updated one. We've actually had a little bit of new information come in since then, and I want to just give y'all an updated opinion on it. So let's get right into it. Okay, so we're gonna pretty much just have it laid out like this: Tier 1, Tier 1.5, Tier 2, Rogue, and just Dookie. Okay. Um, there's not every deck in the world on here. I know some of y'all are always so mad because I don't put uh, gladiator beasts on it. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. I'm not putting gladiator beasts on it. They're not relevant. But anyways, let's start out with gimmick puppet. I think this deck is a solid tier 2 strategy. Any deck that can just FTK just because uh, and there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, that's a good deck. Dragon Link right now with its ability to play a lot of bestials and its ability to put up a pseudo towers monster in Boral End Dragon, I think it's still good, but it's definitely rogue. Pearly. Pearly is a weird one because it really matters who the pilot is. If you're a good pilot with it, it can do some things. If you're not, it cannot do some things. So that's what you see with Pearly. So I'm going to say it's rogue for sure. I actually lost to Pearly in a regional recently. I mean, it's not a bad deck. Branded, I think we have to put Branded in like tier 1.5. It's still good. The Fiendsmith stuff has power crept it a little, but as it has with every other deck in the meta, if you can't run the Fiendsmith, you pretty much got power crept by it. Branded Chimera, I actually put this not Branded Chimera, Fiendsmith Chimera. I put this above Branded, but still 1.5 territory. And if we're looking at like tops and stuff like this, this is not going to be about that. This is more like a potential rogue tier list because we haven't really had enough information come in post NAWCQ. Salamangreat, it's the deck that just never dies. It's rogue. I've played the deck, experimented with it. It really just isn't the format for it to be wildly successful. But if Snake Eyes gets hit, we'll see. Infernoid, no. It's dookie. It really is. Like, this deck ain't good. It seems like it should be good. Like, it has lots of good cards in it, but its cohesiveness just isn't there. Um, Sprite. I would say solid tier 2. I mean, any deck that can put up an Omni Negate and a board that, and then play lots of hand traps, I mean, you're going to have a good bit of success. But I do, it just depends on what variant, and again, it's a deck very much like Pearly where the pilot matters a lot. Ironically, you can play these two decks together. Voiceless Voice, man, this one sucks. I mean, this one sucks to say. I think right now it's kind of dookie. It really is. It's rogue, honestly. It's rogue, but it's like at the very bottom. Um, I actually took Voiceless to a regional last weekend for some reason. I don't know why I did. It was kind of stupid. Um, but it just didn't have enough power for the current meta. That's all there is to it. What it does is not enough anymore. Ritual Beast, I think we have to go with tier 1.5. I won't put it in tier 1 because I don't think it is. And if it doesn't have Protos, it's literally rogue. Like, but we'll put it here for just that. Not a big fan of the deck. Just I don't like the gameplay with it. I don't like anything about it really. Tenpai, definitely tier 1. This deck's like really showing out, and I think it's because a lot of people are bored of Snake Eyes. So maybe if they were playing it, they just switched to Tenpai, something you can kind of. It's not nearly as mentally taxing as Snake Eye or Yubel. White Woods, whichever variant, pretty much any variant that you play, I would say it's tier 2. That might be a little controversial. You could say Rogue, but I think it's a good, solid tier 2 deck. If it goes first, goes interrupted, you pretty much auto win. Um, and then Sword Soul, yeah, this deck is it's dookie, but ironically, it can play Protos, so it's pretty good, for that reason. But it's too dependent on 2 card combos and stuff like that. Mimigold, definitely a good solid rogue deck right now, honestly. I think it's still under voiceless, of course, because it lacks a real game plan after turn 2. That's kind of the issue. Like if it, it can kind of lose in those grindy games. Sky Striker, any type of Sky Striker stuff right now is just kind of dookie. Everybody's playing troll. Everybody is pretty much playing some sort of back row remove. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you do with this deck right now. Not necessarily back row removal helps, but people are playing evenly, stuff like that. The deck just doesn't do enough to do anything. Melodious, this is a deck I've been playing lately, and I think it's a solid tier 2 option. Because compared to these other decks, the power level is much higher. And I'm just talking about the ceiling. Um, I think you could almost say it's up here, but I mean, I don't know. And you notice all these are fusion decks, but again, I think just overall it's probably down in tier 2. I think piloting it well is very rewarding, but you never know. The Fire King Snake Eye variant, I'm going to put it down here in tier 2. It really got power crept by the Fiendsmith, and a lot of people just dropped it altogether. You're just better off not playing it like that. Rescue Ace Fiendsmith, again, I'm going to put this one in Rogue. It's very powerful, but it's like it still has all the same problems Rescue Ace did before, but now you add the Fiendsmith stuff to kind of just add a little additional layer to it. But yeah, I mean, being able to set 4 pass with Turbulence is crazy. Lightsworn, I say it's still solid Rogue, especially the Lightsworn tier variant. I think that's the best variant to play. Vanquish Soul kind of sucks right now. It's a shifter deck though, so don't be surprised if you see a top here and there. I mean, you've seen a top at one of the Nats. It's good. Ice Barrier. This deck's kind of good. Like, really, it's higher up on the list. I would say it's probably like right here. To be honest with you. It can waterlock you. It can do a lot of stuff. If you're playing the Ice Barrier Runic, you can draw like 7 cards in one turn. 6 cards, 7. Yeah, 7. Madolche. Overall, it's not that good. It's one of them decks like if you go interrupted, yes, you're gonna. But that's any deck. Any deck. Drytron. For now, it's Rogue. I think people maybe just aren't playing this deck because it only got like 2 new cards and it's just not as exciting as all the other shiny objects. It's called shiny object syndrome, but yeah. Valmonica. This deck's kind of dookie, to be honest with you. It's not that good. I see people trying to make it work. It's just the worst option of all those decks that came out in Valiant Smashers. Kashtira, man, like it feels like playing 2 different decks. When you see Shifter, it's like this. When you don't see Shifter, it's like this. So I'm gonna put it like here. It's still there. It's still doing stuff, but just not a lot. Magical Musket. I know a lot of people want to put this like up here, but a lot of the players that have been playing this are like very, very high level players. So I think it's still just a rogue deck, but I think it's like one of the best rogue decks out there because it just does some stuff that other decks can't do. It's similar to Runic that you can activate spells and traps from the hand. Snake Eye Fiendsmith, definitely tier 1, definitely at the top. But ironically, what it is this deck can counter this deck very well. And same with this deck versus Yugioh. Like they're all 3 very well matches for each other. Runic Stun, I'm gonna put it in tier 1.5. It's one of them really, really draw dependent decks. Like going second, like if you don't draw a good hand, you just auto lose. Going first, if you draw a good hand, you just auto win. It's one of those type of decks. Plunder Patrol, this deck. Ironically, this deck's not that bad. It's just not doing enough for the format, so it's in Dookie. Centurion, I would still put it in Rogue, especially if you're playing it mixed with the White Woods stuff. But then at that point, you're just playing White Woods. So what are you actually playing at that? I don't know. I'm just saying Rogue because it seems like a decent spot for it. Memento. This deck, God, it's so close. I would say it's like at the top of tier 2. I would say that. And I would say Melodious is like right there with it. Like these two are very similar in power level. Both of them are fusion decks, but they're not like dependent on fusions 100% of the time. So just a good deck. Yubel, I think it's the third worst or the third best deck when compared to these other two. It's a little too slow, if you know what I mean. These other two decks are a little bit faster. This one's a little bit slower. It almost becomes a mid-rangey deck in some games. It can almost do both. And I think since the Fiendsmith, it actually got a little bit slower somehow. Dinos, they're just dookie right now. I don't know why. I didn't mean to put that. And then Flew Under Rees. So, Flew Under Rees is actually a really good rogue deck right now. I mean, it can play Shifter. It can set up if it sets up board, you don't win. You do not win. And then again, it's kind of like Cash. When you draw Shifter, it feels like it's up here. When you don't draw Shifter, and then when you brick, it's like here, because the deck does brick a lot. But I would put it somewhere around right here. Dragon Link, if I had to just order all these, let me just go through and order all these kind of as best I can. I think the rogue section is pretty good. Tier 2, I think we got this. Fire King, Sprite, White Woods, that's good. And then I think Ritual Beast above this. Runic Stun, and then like Fiendsmith Chimera, then Branded Chimera. And then the tops, I think the top's pretty good as far as order. I mean, the rogue's going to be complicated because those are all going to be just very trivial, and people are usually really passionate about their rogue decks. But yeah, tier 2, I think this is a pretty good representation of tier 2 right now. Just based on power level alone, not necessarily like topping results and things like that. Because if you go by that, then you would have to probably put Ritual Beast almost at tier 1. I mean, especially if you judge the level of the performances. So like if you get top 2 at Nats, then that's a little bit more weight than winning a regional, in my opinion. So, anyways, guys, let me know in the comments what you think. Did I miss any decks that are actually like out there? So, anyways, be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.